this is Valerie Moore from the Frederian Gazette. Thank you for joining us tonight for the first episode of Season 2 of Say I Slew Them Not, written by Kingsley Montevello, edited by Alexander Phillips, and narrated by Pepper Holloway. If you've enjoyed our program and want to support independent journalism, please donate to our Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/the Frederian Gazette and review our show. Reviews help other listeners find us. Content warnings for this episode include trauma, PTSD, loss of a child, references to a difficult pregnancy and miscarriage, grief, depression, references to torture and imprisonment, guilt, references to hearing voices, and references to self-harm. This program has been sponsored by Harold's Hornwats, a way to get that $100 shine without having to grind. We pass the mic to Pepper Holloway, who will be reading Episode 1, Mustapha Page, former prosecutor at the Fairway trials, is the new lead prosecutor in Kingsley's trial for war crimes. Alexander Phillips's letter to their sibling, Sam Phillips, March 4th, 1876. Dear Sam, Christine is here. She shouldn't be. I know she shouldn't be. Not when the Rouge Pheasant is a handful of blots from where she was imprisoned. Not with demons and Ajakanai haunting my every step. Not when I spend every night editing the words of the Ikatel who... Christine is here. And the bastard that I am, I'm elated she is risking everything to reunite with me. I should ask her to return home. She'll be safer in Ferdern. Would she ask me to come with her? Or would being required to ask permanently destroy what little love remains between us? Why can't I go home with her? I'm not doing any good here. Margaret is right about me. I am tearing at a badly stitched wound that is not mine to reopen because it is easier to cause others pain than to deal with my own. If we go home, we'll have to face it. The empty nursery. The oppressive void that stands between us every second of every moment of every day. Here we can chase older nightmares whose horrors we've buried deep enough their cries for help have been all but silenced. Here she can sleep next to me while I write this letter to you, and I can study how her thick and wild curls tumble into her pale, round face, black strands glued to her parted lips as she gently breathes, and I can trace an invisible pattern between the splatter of beauty marks that run down her arms without guilt or shame. I can marvel at how lucky I am that she willingly agreed to spend her life with me despite knowing me better than anyone. Here I can pretend I am still the perfect lover who rescued her from horrors unimaginable instead of the bastard who was never there when she needed me most. I'm embarrassed, Sam. Why didn't you convince her to forget about me and find someone who was better for her? She arrived this evening, along with Mustapha and his family. Devin, Margaret, and Caroline sent their love, but understood I wanted a moment alone with my family. Max joined me and cursed Mustapha out the entire time. Despite his misgivings about Mustapha taking over Kingsley's trial, it's clear he's nervously glad to see his friend and fellow Fairway trials veteran again. When we arrived at the station, the baton-happy police cleared a path for us through the massive crowd of journalists and protesters. The Ajakanai hung on the edges of the crowd, not even pretending to hide. They're furious that Mustapha's taking over the prosecution, refusing to forgive him and Nairobi for spending their youth smuggling demons into Ferdern, and that no one else was brave enough to take the job after the lead prosecutor, quote-unquote, took his own life. I trust and love Mustapha, but I cannot say he is doing the right thing. I'm sure he thinks the same thing about me. How many more of us will be dragged into this disaster that is unfolding as quickly as molasses? He resisted the call for so long. Are we all doomed to remain trapped in a hell of someone else's making? Christine, dressed in all black, gingerly stepped off the train first, and I rushed to stabilize her as she used her crutches to find her footing. Traveling by train is still best for her since they are only negligent when it comes to her wheelchair. The airlines seem determined to break all mobility devices out of some bizarre sense of spite. Still, the height between the last step and the platform can be too much for her. Did you get her the new crutches with the forearm support? They're a beautiful cherry wood. Once she was stable, I brushed her wild, curly mop of black hair from her piercing blue eyes and pecked her cheek. She's far paler than I remember, although she's never been fond of the sun. Winston, Mustapha's black and white, short-haired pit bull, hopped off next, followed by Mustapha, who lumbered with his usual awkward grace of a sailor who has spent too much time on land and was desperate to return to the sea. Mustapha was surlier than usual, although that isn't saying much. His brown skin sported a healthy glow, even though I doubt he's been able to sail often. His thick eyebrows were drawn in disdainful irritation, suggesting his ride had been anything but peaceful. Nairobi followed. Her skin, cooler and darker than Mustapha's, glowed with a pale undertone. She climbed down with the confidence of someone who would have gladly and easily made the transition from hospital executive to pirate queen if Mustapha asked. Her usually flawless twists were tangled in terribly crafted braids. They stood close to each other, Mustapha squeezing Nairobi's hand for a moment before they both put an arm around their wide-eyed daughter, Nazima. Nazima's only 9, but already a tall and willowy beauty. She's clearly going to be taller than both of her parents, but who isn't taller than Mustapha? Her black-haired bun was as soundly crafted as Nairobi's braids, with large chunks of hair falling into her round and warm face, her golden brown, oval eyes frantically ping-ponging back and forth as she took everything in. Mats greeted Mustapha's family first, congratulating the pair on their wedding and apologizing he hadn't been able to attend. Mustapha assured him Jamal would send him an invitation to the massive after-party Jamal and Sarah are planning to quote-unquote properly celebrate their rushed marriage. Mats bent down and introduced himself to Nazima, who solemnly offered her hand while introducing herself. He, just as solemnly, shook her hand, and she commented on how spiky and wiry his fur was, blushing afterwards. Matt smiled and told Mustapha that she had adopted his lack of filter. Mustapha wanted to stay with us until we found Christine's wheelchair in case we needed an angry lawyer to terrify the clerk into doing their job, but Matt's convinced him that it would be better if they led the reporters and protesters away so our family could have a moment's peace. Peace, being a relative term, as their daughter, Nazima, is an exhausting and inquisitive child reminding me more of Mercury than Mustapha. She insisted on splashing in every puddle we passed while asking me 100 questions that ranged from why did I look worse than Uncle Jamal and why did I smell like a chimney after the fire had been put out. I snapped at that question as I was certain the amount of cologne I used would have drowned out the smell of cigarettes. We collected their luggage and went to the front desk to track down Christine's wheelchair. It took a good hour to find it, Nazima talking non-stop about the trip and meeting the family and whatever popped into her head as we tried to make ourselves as comfortable as possible on the stiff wooden benches. Surprisingly, Christine's wheelchair was in good condition. She let me carry her crutches as she wheeled down the street, Nazima still rambling on. Nairobi asked about my health and said the family is worried about me, especially you. She also interrogated me about the reliability of the caregivers I hired to take care of Christine while she is here. It almost seemed like Nairobi was hurt that I thought we needed anyone else, but she has Nazima and Mustapha to worry about. She can't take care of Christine too, and there are medical procedures only a caregiver should give. She relented when she learned that Devin and Margaret vetted and vouched for both caregivers. One is an Ikatel who knows Christine from the Resistance, Hannah Clark. She will be tending Christine for 4 days of the week. The other is a Yonandarium who works at the Antiquities Museum, Olfat and Taki. She will be covering the weekends. They both already familiarized themselves with the locations around the hotel itself, and my room and the room I rented for Christine in case she wanted to have her own space. They also know where the 3 closest pharmacies are located and have a list of psychiatrists and obstetricians for Christine to review. I know I'm not the best husband, but I'm not going to jeopardize Christine's health any more than I already have. We ate at a small cafe run by a family of Andariums. Mustapha and Winston joined us later. The Andarium family gave Winston a large bone while calling him adorable. I couldn't determine if his tail wagged as if motorized because he recognized the word adorable or because he was excited about the bone. Mustapha's surly mood improved as soon as he drank hot coffee. Nazima entertained us with a spot-on impersonation of him. I'm Mufasa. I don't eat food. Only need coffee to survive. Which earned a poorly concealed smile and the flick of his forefinger against the side of her head. It is jarring to see Mustapha content. Even when he moved in with Nairobi, I didn't think. I'm glad Nairobi and Nazima found him. We didn't stay long. Everyone was exhausted. As we left, Mustapha pointed out a pair of Azure Kanai to me, growling an Andarium curse, and spat in their direction. They followed us to the hotel, some even waiting idly in the lobby. They didn't bother us. They didn't need to. For all her bluster, Nazima begged to be carried halfway to the hotel and fell asleep in Mustapha's arms. They wished us good night before entering their hotel rooms, leaving Christine alone with me. I told her I rented a room for her, but she insisted on staying in my room. Of course, I hadn't bothered to clean, and the caregivers heeded my warning about not touching my research. Christine took a bath to buy me time to make the room presentable. She asked about my work as I helped her out of the low tub. She told me she listened to all my broadcasts. Why did you let her? Or should I save my wrath for Mustapha? I didn't want to burden her with that bullshit, and so we danced around each other, neither able to sleep nor willing to ruin the fragile peace that exists between us. I introduced her to Dolores. She agreed he looked quite tragic, and she taught me up on family news, softening the mood. I'm sorry to hear you and Elena broke up again. Christine told me about Penelope's elaborate and elegant birthday party. It is hard to imagine that Hakim's eldest is 21. It is not surprising at all that she is working at the family bank. If Ronald and Hakim are not careful, she is going to push them into retirement and take over the bank by the time she is 23. I owe her a present. I am sorry to miss the grand opening of Sarah and Mustapha's new location, although I'm sure Dad is grateful they haven't run his former law firm into bankruptcy. Mustapha means well, but as I am sure Sarah has told him 100 times, you can't run a business without taking currency as payment. I'm glad Mercury showed up at Penelope's birthday long enough to prove that he has not yet died from liver damage. Every day I fear Marta will send him back to us frozen in a giant ice block to preserve his body. Please tell Jamal I am sorry I missed his poetry reading, and I'm glad he found a venue that will let him perform. And of course tell Mom and Dad I miss them terribly. It was good to sit with Christine and laugh at the misadventures of the nieces, nephews, and nibblings, but God, Sam, I'm missing so much. No wonder the children have always been distant and unsure around me. I've never truly been there for them, have I? Christine's more focused and clear-headed since I last saw her. She says you're giving her new medication, and it makes the voices somewhat manageable. She is eager to meet Hannah tomorrow, glad that Margaret double-checked Devin's recommendations. He means well, but sometimes his good heart blinds him to obvious flaws. We eventually collapsed on the bed, only partially undressed, and welcomed the darkening shadows protecting us from each other. She took my hand that bears resin's mark and asked permission to remove my fingerless gloves. I hesitated before agreeing. She pulled off the wool glove and traced the white and raised star. To me, it looked like nothing more than erratically arranged lines, but it meant something to the demons, for it kept me safe during the war. I can't stand looking at the thing myself, so I studied her exquisite round face instead, admiring how her long lashes rest on her cheeks when she blinks, her plump, chapped lips that can never hold a full smile for long, the 3 beauty marks arranged in a curved line on her right cheek. She is the most beautiful being in the world. I told her I've missed her. She looked at me sadly and whispered as softly as a doe comforting its fawn that she missed me as well. She rested her cheek in my palm and asked, "Why did you leave?" I frowned and asked if she really wanted to talk about that now. She asked when would we ever talk about it, if not now. I pulled away and sat up, knowing she was right, but hating her all the same for bringing it up. What good would it do to talk about it? It happened. It was over. Why couldn't we choose to be happy, even just for tonight? She said my name, and I glanced over my shoulder to see she was sitting up and leaning against the wall, her hands intertwined in her lap, nervously rearranging how they intertwined every few seconds. I asked her if her voices had already told her, and she shook her head, surprising me. Usually her voices love tormenting her every second they get. I told her it wasn't because I didn't love her, and she replied, "That's not what I asked." I told her I couldn't stay. Not with everyone's sympathetic glances and favors and pity, as if I needed to be told over and over and over again how fucking unfair it was, how fucking sorry everyone was, being asked multiple times an hour, "How are you and Christine holding up?" Forced to provide rote answers while my brain screamed, "Our child is dead, we could not save them, our child is dead, we could not save him, our child is dead," and my throat seized up and my tongue felt like drenched wool in my dry mouth. Tears streamed down my face and my body trembled as I gripped the mattress for support. I've never said those words out loud before. Not to myself, not to her, not to anyone in the family, not to the therapist you arranged for me before I left. "It's my fault," I whispered. "I pushed when I shouldn't have, and I nearly killed you, and I killed our child, and I couldn't face you when we both knew it was my fault. It was my fault because I didn't want a child." I fell silent, unable to say what we've all known. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't anyone say anything? Why? I wanted normalcy too, Alex. I wanted you to be happy. They were never going to bring us happiness, were they? Maybe it's better. Maybe... She crawled across the bed and sat next to me. I asked why it was so hard. Hakim, Ronald, and Virgo seemed so happy with their children. Even Mustapha seemed happier with Nazima. Why couldn't we find happiness like everyone else? Because we're not like everyone else, she said simply, as if she was momentarily channeling you. We've never been. I told her I only wanted to give her a normal, happy life. After everything we've been through, we deserved that, didn't we? I talked about how happy our parents are and how much they loved us, and she pointed out that children hadn't been enough for her own parents, and I admit I didn't know what to do. I killed our child, I nearly killed her, and I destroyed our marriage because I couldn't face what I had done. Why are you here, Christine? Because I still love you. Our gazes met, and she gave me a small smile, and I rested my hand on hers. And I still love you, I said. Do you think that is enough? She shrugged and rested her head on my shoulder. I buried my face into her wild curls, inhaling her scent of sage and lemongrass, and kissed the top of her head before resting my chin against it. It's been enough so far, she said, and I replied, yes, that is true. You smoked your last cigarette today, yes? Yes, I told her, almost laughing at how mundane her concern was compared to everything else we needed to work through. I love her, Sam. I love her and I do not deserve her, but she is here. Despite everything, she is here, and that is all that matters. Thank you for caring for her when I couldn't. Love, Alex. You've just heard Mustapha Page, former prosecutor at the Fairway trials, arrives in Bearcaska to take lead in Kingsley's trial from Say I Slew Them Not by Kingsley Montevello. Tonight's episode was read by Pepper Holloway and was sponsored by Harold's Horn Wax, the wax you use when you want to shine away the blues. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Frederian Gazette, and go to our website www.frederiangazette.com for episode extras. Feel free to send us any questions you have about the podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next Monday at 5 p.m. for episode 2. Judge grants prosecutor Page's requested 3-month stay of proceedings.